Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial. I am Chudimen Namdi. Here we're going to learn how to create a counter app for iPhone using the SwiftUI framework. So let's begin. Now we'll have to launch our Xcode. So it will bring up a dialog box here. So we have the dialog box here. Now since we are creating a new project, we have to click on this, create new project. Now it opens up. So we are creating an iOS app. So we are in the iOS tab already and we have the app selected. If anything other than this app is selected, we have to select this app because we are creating an app for the iOS. So we click on next, then type the name of the app we want. So in this case, we'll type counter, then team none, organization identifier, interface SwiftUI because you're using the SwiftUI framework, so it should be selected, language Swift, storage none for now because we don't need any data. We will be using the state variables as data for our counter value. So we have Swift data and core data here. We will not be using any of them. So include test, we can remove it for now because we don't need it. Then we'll click on next and then create our project in the Xcode PRJs folder. Then it will generate our project. Now let me move this IDE to a new screen to be bigger. So we have it here. Okay, so we have our IDE up and running with our preview running. So in this right hand side, we'll see a simulator of an iPhone 15 Pro. As you can see here, iPhone 15 Pro, we are simulating our code on. And inside it, we can see what is being rendered. So what is being rendered here is whatever code that we open in our left hand side. As you can see, we have this hashtag preview followed by the struct content view that we want to preview here. So whatever we put inside these braces is what will appear in the right hand side. So to remove this preview, we just need to just remove this hashtag preview and it will be gone. So if we uncomment it, the preview will come back again. Okay, you see the view is back. Now whatever we have in this content view will be previewed here. Now this content view is what we use to define the view in SwiftUI. This is just the variable name. It can be any name, but to define a view, we just have to begin with this struct keyword followed by the name of the view, whatever we want to assign it, then this colon and then view. This view denotes that this variable struct content view is a single view in an iOS. Now, this var body inside this brace is where we'll now stack up the widgets that will make up the view we want to create in this content view. Now, you can see we have the vstack, image, text, and then some padding here. Now, this vstack renders whatever that is within its braces in a vertical line or in a vertical order from top to bottom. Now, inside it, we are rendering an image, which is this image, and then a text followed by this text. So you see SwiftUI follows the declarative approach. Just define whatever the widgets you want to define, and then SwiftUI takes it from there and renders it for you. So that's why SwiftUI is so much more faster to learn and to create an app using it than using the UI kit. So you see here, we just define the vstack telling the SwiftUI that we want to place these two widgets in a vertical line. So that's why we have the image up first and then hello world followed at the bottom. So if you add another thing after this text hello world, it will appear below it. So you see our view is syncing and it's building. Now you see we have the hello world down here. That's what the vstack does. Then the image is just used to render an image, then followed by the properties we want to define. The image scale large, foreground tint, foreground style tint, makes them just a bluish tint. Then this vstack, you see we are calling a property there, padding, which means like coming from the HTML side. See, padding is just used to add spaces at the left, right, top, bottom of a widget. So now let's start by now building our counter app. Now first what we want to do is to set up our variable. So to set up a variable, we do it outside of this body view. So we'll come here, write private, float by var, then the name counter, we initialize it to 0. Now this private makes this counter to be only be used within this content view, not outside of it. Then this var just tells the content view that hey, this counter is a variable. Then we initialize it to 0. Now since this counter variable want to make it to be a state variable, so making it a state variable, we want this counter value to render this content view whenever its value changes. Now to do that, we'll make it a state variable, and to do that, we'll first come here, add the at symbol followed by the state keyword. So this makes this counter variable to be a state variable. Now let's start off then by building our UI. So our UI will consist of two buttons, increment and decrement sideways, and then we'll have this counter being displayed on top, so that whenever we click on the decrement here, it will decrease. Increment here, when we click on it, it will increase. It will increase the counter value and it will reflect here. Now first, let's start off by rendering the counter variable. So to do that, we want to render it outside of this vstack, so that this vstack will only hold our buttons. So we want to render it outside of here. So first, we'll have to render it inside a text, because that's the only way we can show a variable. So to show a variable in SwiftUI, you first add this string, empty string, then followed by this slash, then open and close these brackets. Then we'll write the variable that we want to display, which is in this case counter. So you see it appears here. Let me increment this. So you see it appears here 0. So we are done with this. Now let's add our button. Let's come down here, say button, then open and close, then braces. Then inside here is where we'll now add our text, increment. But first, let me remove this and then comment out this image. So you see we are still having an error, so this preview will not rebuild. Now we need to add an action here. Now this action is the action that will be performed when this button is clicked. Now it will call this increment function. You will see how we'll define this function first. Now inside these braces is what we'll declare that will be rendered in between the button widget. Now first, to remove this error, we need to define this function. So to define a function in SwiftUI, we'll come here, now write the func keyword followed by the name of the function, then braces open and close. So you see our error here has disappeared, and all the errors we have disappeared. So see, our preview is building. When it's built, we'll see our button with the text increment here. Let's wait for it. Okay, we have the increment rendered here. Now if we click on it, nothing will happen. It will just call this increment function, and that's all. Okay, now let's add the decrement. Let's come here, remove this button, decrement, then also here decrement. We'll copy this and then create another function as we have done previously. Bracket open and close, braces open and close. So you see decrement button has appeared here, and we are rendering it in a v-stack, so which is horizontal, but we want this decrement and increment to be sideways. Decrement here, increment here, we don't want it to be in a vertical position. So in this case we'll use an h stack. So we'll come here, remove v and put h. So you see it renders them sideways. Very good. Now we'll have to implement our function here on the increment. So this increment, we just have to increment this counter variable by 1. So to do that, we'll just increment the variable by 1 like this. So we'll copy this, do the same in the decrement, but in this case subtracting by 1. So our preview is done. So when we click on this increment, this will increment to 1. So you see it's working. When we decrement, it's decrementing by 1. So you see it's working. Now let's make this view to be kind of very appealing to the eye. First, we will need to add an image here, minus, and an image to this decrement plus. Make it both bigger, and then even here, make this counter up bigger, because when we zoom out, you see it's kind of very hard to figure what is happening here. So to do that, we will come here, we call the size, then inside it call the system, no, sorry, not size, actually we'll call the font property, then inside it call the system dot size, then assign it a size of let me say 100, then come down, we'll make it bold. So our preview is still building. So you see our counter value is now quite very defined, so that when we increment and decrement, we can clearly see it. Now let's add image to our decrement and increment. First, let me uncomment this, then copy it, add it here, then and also add for increment. Now we don't want a globe. So for decrement, we don't want a globe here. So we want a minus sign. We'll just say minus. For increment, we'll say plus. Plus. So you see they all appear. Now let me make it to be circled and filled. We'll just come here and add dot circle. Also come here and add dot circle. We'll have them circled and circled. So you see how easy it is for us to write iOS app. So here we just don't want it. So now let's change the color of this decrement to red. We'll come here, change it to red. So its building is coming up. So you see it's red. We can do the same with the text. We just need to copy this, paste it. The text will turn to red too. So you see we can actually increase the size of our button using font dot size, sorry, dot system, then size will say 120, passing size 120. So let's just leave for this button. Let me just do for the image first, because you see it's exploding the screen. Let me just do for the image, then we'll come here and also do for the image for increment. It's building. So now we can simply remove the text. I just simply remove them, since you already know what these two buttons are doing. So you see we have removed them and our buttons came out clearly. So when we click on decrement, it decrements. When we click on increment, it goes. So we can go further to fill this button. You can just come here and write dot fill. It fills it up. Also for the increment, it fills it up. So you see our counter app works now. Now let's add a reset button that will reset our counter to 0 whenever we click on the reset button. So let's add our reset at the bottom of these two. So we'll come here and add button, our braces, and inside we'll add image. So let me copy from this, come here, add. Now first let's add our action also, and we just call the reset. So here I think we should think the icon we should use here is reload. Okay, let me just first deal with this reset. We'll copy this, come here, we'll declare a function reset with the name reset, open and close brackets. Then inside we just simply set the counter to 0. So we need to add the reset button, so it needs to be like an arrow pointing here. So first let me go to create code snippet, go to this icon. So we have this arrow clockwise. I think we'll have to select it, arrow clockwise. Then we'll come here, add it. So you see we have it. Image scale, I think this should be a little bit small. Yes, exactly, should be at least a little bit small. Do we have to circle it? Okay. No, I don't think it will work. Fill doesn't work, so I think we'll have to leave it like this. Reset. Then the color, should we leave it to black? I think reset should be red. Or green. Okay, let's leave it to green. Then let's circle it. Very good. So then let's reduce it to 50. No, 60 or 70. So I think it's quite visible. So let me remove these codes. Very good. So you see the reason we added this button here is because we want it to be rendered after these two buttons. So if we had added this button inside this H stack before, after this increment button, it would have, this reset button would have been rendered here. So we don't want it to be in the same line as the decrement and increment button. We want it to be at the bottom. So we already know that these two buttons are being enclosed inside the H stack. So that's the reason we had to render the button outside of this H stack in order to get the design like this. So now we can test. Let's increment. I want to click on reset, it goes back to 0. Decrement, and when we reset, it goes back to 0. Now, just to tell you how powerful SwiftUI is, let's display an error here when the counter value is less than 0. So to do that, let me first copy this text here, then remove this, then add the scene counter value is less than 0. Now we need to display this when the counter value is less than 0. In SwiftUI, we can simply do something like this. Then encase this text inside an if condition, and it will work. So we are saying if counter, we have problem here. Okay, this bold, let me remove this. So you see it works. Now if this 0 is -1 downwards, this text counter value is less than 0 will appear here. Let's try it. You see it appears. So you see the power of SwiftUI. We don't have to declare another state variable and come and do anything here. We just have to add the condition here and it will work. If we click on this and this becomes 0, this will clear out. You see it clear out. Then we can make it a little bolder. You see, then just add corner radius. Okay, we can't add a corner radius to text. You can just embed, you can just group it. Come add corner radius of 3. Then add background. I think the background should be, let's make it red. Very good, it appears. Then let's pad our text. Let's pad our text and let's make the corner radius a bit more visible. Let's make it 10.0. Let me remove this, add it before you. So you see it appears. Now let me make this text color to be white. So we'll come here and say foreground color, we'll make it white. So you see it's white. So when we increment, it doesn't show, but when we go to 0, it shows up. So you see how easy it was in SwiftUI to design this at a go without so much code. That's to show you how powerful SwiftUI is. You just have to write the properties and it does everything for you. So this is the end of this tutorial. I hope you understood everything I did here, how declarative SwiftUI is, and also how simple it is to declare your state variables, function, your widgets, stack, button, image, text, and they all appear very fine. You will use much more bigger code in Flutter, HTML, and other mobile designing languages to create just a few things here than we used in SwiftUI. Just with this few code, we are able to create something as spectacular as this. So if you need any project, any app you want to be built in SwiftUI, you can comment down in the comment section. I will be glad to create the app and then do a video on it. So please like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you so much and see you on the next video. Bye.